Hello and welcome to iExamB. Embrace the iExamB learning experience to prepare 50% faster. I'm Dr. Sini Shibu, and in this video, I'm going to talk about exception handling in Java. So let us now understand what is an exception. An exception is an unexpected event that disrupts the normal flow of a Java program at runtime. So when an error occurs inside a method, Java creates an exception object containing information about the error and it throws it. If it is not handled, the program will terminate abnormally. Exception handling is the mechanism to handle these runtime errors gracefully. Let us look at this example. Here in the class demo, we have an integer array 1, 2, 3 and we are trying to print array of 10. This will generate an exception. But since it is not handled, this program terminates abnormally. So how does Java help us to handle exceptions? The try-catch block is the mechanism through which Java can handle exceptions. The try block contains the code that might throw an exception. The catch block handles the exception if it occurs. The code after the try-catch continues executing normally. If no exception occurs, the catch block is completely skipped. The syntax for the try-catch is shown on the screen. Here you see that all the code that might throw an exception is enclosed within the try block. Any kind of exception that generates from the try block is going to be caught in the catch block. The execution would continue after the try catch. So let us look at an example where we are looking into exception handling in Java. Here we have an integer array ARR with three values 1, 2 and 3. We are trying to print ARR of 10. This will raise an exception. So we have enclosed the statement within the try block. The catch block is going to handle the exception. It will print the error invalid index and also get a message associated with this particular exception. After this, the program would continue normally. So if you look at the output, we would get error invalid index and also the message, which is index 10 out of bounds for length 3. And then it is printing program continues normally. The exception is handled and hence the program continues normally in this scenario. Have a look at this example. Here we have two variables a and b initialized to 10 and 0 respectively. And we are trying to divide a by b, which will raise an arithmetic exception. Now we are catching the exception at the catch block. It will print cannot divide by 0 and also the exception with the message. And it will go out of the catch block and print program continues. So if you look at the output would be cannot divide by 0, exception divide by 0 and the program continues. Exception is handled and therefore the program would continue normally without getting terminated. There are two kinds of exceptions in Java, the checked and the unchecked exceptions. The checked exceptions are subclass of the exception class. The compiler forces you to handle them. You must use try-catch or throw keyword to handle checked exceptions. These represent recoverable conditions. Examples of checked exceptions include IO exception, SQL exception, file not found exception, class not found exception, and interrupted exception. The unchecked exceptions are subclass of the runtime exception. The compiler does not force you to handle them. It is optional for catch. It represents programming errors. Examples of unchecked exceptions include null pointer exception, array index out of bounds exception, arithmetic exception, number format exception, and class cast exception. There are various methods that can be invoked on the exception object. For example, the getMessage method returns error description in the string form. The toString function returns the class name as well as the message. The print stack trace method prints the full stack trace to the console. The getClass.getName function returns the exception class name, and the getCause returns the cause exception in case of a chaining. A single try block can have multiple catch blocks as well, one to handle each type of exception. Java checks each catch block in order from top to bottom and executes the very first match. Only one catch block executes per exception. You have to take care that more specific exceptions must come before the more general ones. This is the syntax of multiple catch blocks. The try block is a single block and you have multiple catches, and you can specify what you need to handle in each of the catch. You can have a general exception as shown in the last catch. Here it catches any remaining exception and it is the most general, and that is why it is put at the last. Finally is a very important block in the exception handling mechanism of Java. It always executes whether an exception occurred or not and whether it was caught or not. It runs even if there is a return statement in try or catch. It is used for cleanup code that may be used for closing files, releasing database connections, or freeing the resources. This is the syntax of the finally block. So you have the try block, then the catch block, and finally, which is a block which always runs and all the cleanup code goes into the finally block. The throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception from inside a method or a block. Both checked and unchecked exceptions can be thrown with the throw keyword. After throw, execution immediately leaves the current block and looks for a matching catch block for execution. The syntax of throw keyword is throw new exception type, and within bracket you can specify the error message. Have a look at this example. Here the divide method takes in two parameters, int a and int b. If b is equal to 0, we are throwing a new arithmetic exception, divisor cannot be 0. And else it will return the double of value a by b. When the divide function is called in the main function, it will go ahead and give a valid output in case an exception is not occurring. But in case you are trying to divide by a 0, it throws an exception which is caught by the arithmetic exception E, and the system.out.println error plus E get message is going to be executed. So the output would be 5, which is the actual division happening for 10 by 2. And when we try to divide 10 by 0, it will give us the message error, divisor cannot be 0. So this demonstrates how you can use the throw keyword to create a new throw and catch it in the relevant block. There is also this throws keyword. This keyword is used in a method signature to declare that the method might throw one or more checked exceptions. It does not actually throw an exception, but it warns the caller that they must handle this kind of an exception which is being thrown. The caller must either use the try catch or also declare throws in their signature. The syntax would be access modifier, return type, method name, throws exception type 1, exception type 2, and then you can specify the method body. Have a look at this example. Here we have a read file method which throws an IO exception. So whichever function will go ahead and call this read file function, it needs to either use the try catch or throw the same kind of exception. So you see that the main function also throws IO exception. It can alternatively also use the try catch to handle the exception. So this is the utility of the throws keyword. Now let us look into some of the MCQs with respect to exception handling. In this question, you have to predict the output of the code. Here, you are having a try-catch block and also a finally block. So in the try block, we are first outputting A and throwing a new runtime exception X. In the catch block, we are outputting B, and in the finally, we are outputting C. So the output of this code would be ABC. Firstly, in the try block, A would be printed. It would throw an exception which would be caught, and B would be printed, and finally would also be printed. Remember that even in case of a return, finally is going to be executed. So in this question, you have to predict the output. In the try block, we are outputting A and throwing a new runtime exception X. In the catch block, we are outputting e.getMessage and returning. And the finally block prints C. So the answer here would be AXC. So what really happens here is that first A would be printed and it throws the new runtime exception with the message X. And in the catch block, e.getMessage is going to be outputted. So X would be the output. The finally runs even though there is a return statement in catch. So C will also be printed. Now let us look into this question that requires you to predict the output again. Here you have public class test which has a static in test method, and in the try block it is returning 1 and the finally block returns 2. In the public static void main function, you are trying to call the test method. Now the output of this code will be 2. Ideally, when the try block runs, it is returning 1. So finally will also be executed and 2 will be returned. So the final answer would be 2. In this next question, you have to identify which of the following statements is true regarding checked versus unchecked exceptions in Java. So the answer here is B. Checked exceptions must either be caught or declared with throws. Unchecked exceptions are not enforced by the compiler. This is a conceptual question and you have to keep this in mind. Let us now look into this question that requires us to predict the output of the following code. Here you have a try within a try block. So here, when you are executing the inner try, it throws a new arithmetic exception inner. It does not have a catch block. It has a finally block that prints inner finally. The exception that has been thrown would be handled by the outer catch, and it will be printing caught with the e.getMessage. The message is inner. So finally, here we have the answer as inner finally and caught inner. So with that, we come to the end of this video. Here you might have understood that exception handling is a very important feature provided by Java so that our programs can continue their execution even if there is an error happening in the code. I hope this video gave you a better understanding of exception handling in Java. Have a nice learning experience with iExamB and thank you for watching.